Hello and welcome to my channel, Balkan Aesthetics. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing the butterfly effect and talking about it through a Christian lens or Christian perspective. So for those of you who don't know what the butterfly effect is, it's the phenomenon where one action leads to another subsequent action. Or another way to say it is, the consequences of one thing lead to further consequences down the line, or if you want to call it the domino effect, right? So butterfly effect, domino effect means same thing, right? So I like to talk about this in terms of how sin works, okay? Many people don't understand the devastating consequences of sin and how sin can cause problems not just for the person that is subjected to it, but to people down the line. And to illustrate this, I'm going to give an example from the show Breaking Bad. And I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit because it's been a while since I've seen the show, but this example can highlight what I'm talking about very well. So in the show, you have Walt and Jesse. They're both partners, right? And they are cooking methamphetamine to help, fund Walter's cancer treatment, which for those of you who watch the show later on turns into Walt just becoming a drug lord. But anyway, they're partners and they cook methamphetamine. Jesse, Walter's partner, ends up having a love interest, right? And that love interest of his is unfortunately, a fellow junkie, right? She uses drugs as well. And Jesse's partner, Walter, he gets concerned about Jesse's love interest, thinking that she might jeopardize their operation, right? So one day, Walter goes to Jesse's apartment and he sees his love interest overdosing on heroin. He sees her lying flat, right, unconscious, and she's choking on her own vomit, right? And instead of Walter helping her out and turning her over so that she could breathe, he thinks of this as a perfect opportunity to let her die so that she's not a threat to their operation, right? So he just leaves the apartment and lets her die. About an hour later, her father comes and sees her dead from overdosing, right? And as you can imagine, her father is overcome with grief, right? And he ends up going to his job later that day. And he happens to be an air traffic controller, right? And her father, because of that incident, because of his heavy grief, right, he's unable to perform his duties as an air traffic controller. And what ends up happening is two planes collide in midair because of his negligence, because he was overcome with grief. So as a result, countless passengers from both planes died. Okay? So I use that example to illustrate how one action can lead to another, which can lead to another, which can cause devastating consequences, right? You have Walter's inaction, which led to the death of a woman, which led to heavy grief of her father, which led to him being incapacitated at work, not able to do his job, which later on led to the deaths of countless passengers because of two planes colliding. Okay? This phenomenon works the same exact way with sin. Okay? The problem that we have, at least people who don't understand the nature of sin and who haven't been taken under the wing of God to understand these things, is because you sin against somebody, right? You commit evil against someone. That inevitably leaves a scar on them, okay? And that scar that's left by you inflicting evil towards them, they carry that with them, right? And as a result, they commit evil toward other people, right? All because of what you did to them. Think of it like this. You have a young woman who's dating a man, right? And he ends up cheating on her and dumping her, even though he told her that she was his one and only and they would get married and everything would be sunshine and rainbows. But he ends up just using her and discarding her, right? Because of that scar he left on her, now she has a tainted view of men. So every man she dates from that day forward is going to be plagued by her scars by her insecurity because of that one guy who screwed her over the first time. You see? And then she carries that with her to other relationships. So then in response, she ends up being mean and unaccommodating to her next partner or boyfriend or whatever. All because that first guy left a scar on her. Okay? So that's how it works. When you sin against somebody, it leaves a scar, and they end up sinning against someone else, and then they get scarred. And that person goes again and sins against someone else, and they get left with a scar. You see? It's a never-ending cycle of evil that starts with one person, right? Another way to think of it is like a highly contagious virus, right? One person gets infected, then they transfer it to someone else, and they transfer it to someone else, and they transfer it to someone else. And it's a never-ending cycle of chaos, like a wildfire, right? And that's the advantage that evil has over good, is that a little bit of evil can corrupt a whole lot of good. And what's worse is that evil can transfer, it can propagate to other people and ruin the lives of countless other people, all from just one person committing evil against someone else. You know? That's why it's so difficult, for example, when someone has been through trauma, for them to be healed. Okay? It takes a whole lot of good to overcome that little bit of evil. This is why in the Word of God, it tells us that our own righteousness is but filthy rags to God, because we don't understand the consequences of sin and how detrimental it can be. So you have people walking around thinking they're good people, right? Because they think in their mind they do more good things than bad things, so it evens out, or it sides more with the good. But in reality, the evil they commit towards other people via the domino effect or butterfly effect ends up causing a lot more harm over a span of time compared to the good that they do. A way of looking at it would be, you do someone a favor, right? You show someone kindness. There's a good chance they'll forget about that kindness within a week, right? It doesn't last. But if someone commits evil against somebody else, they won't forget about it for months or even years. So you see, that's the advantage evil has. Evil, a little bit of evil can corrupt a lot of good, and the effects of evil are much longer lasting than the effects of good. This is why God calls us and tells us to come out of the world, to stop doing evil, which is a much better way of living your life than thinking, I'm just going to be a good person and do more good things than bad things. Because inevitably, the bad things that you do will outweigh the good things, because you don't see how they propagate down the line via the domino effect or the butterfly effect. So I hope that message makes sense to you. You're going to do people a lot more favors by just staying out of sin and not sinning than thinking you're a good person and trying to make up for the bad things you do by doing somebody favors. So I hope that all makes sense for you guys. As always, if you like the video, give it a like. If you want to subscribe, please do so. And if you want to make a comment for any other future video you'd like me to do, I'd be happy to oblige. And as always, God gets the glory. I'll see you in the next video.